really excited to be. Yeah, sorry. Did I just hear that, or was it everyone else as well? Yeah, so I'm sorry I can't really be here on camera. I've been feeling a bit unwell today, but I'm really pleased to be here at episode 14. As again, we're the yardstick for how long lockdown is, so we're proud to be here. 4 really good speakers today. It's almost like a double whammy, and on the lead up to the Christmas edition, I'm really looking forward to what the guys are going to reveal later on as well. So it's great to be here, and thanks for your continued support, especially from anyone who's dialed in from the States. We really appreciate you being here. George, to you. Timmy, to you.
Thanks, Brian. I think I'm just going to echo pretty much what Brian said. It looks like a fantastic lineup today. Really interested to see what's been going on at Bitmetric, and also what Ian and his colleague have got to say afterwards as well. Thanks to everybody that's dialed in. It has been a fantastic year. We are on episode 14 already, and not to take any of the limelight away from this one, I also can't wait to reveal what's coming up in episode 15, so everybody needs to stay tuned for that. We'll have the big reveal at the end. Thanks, and also Andrew, thank you for taking the helm today as well.
No, it's okay. No, obviously it's a team effort. Hopefully we all do different things, and it'll. A lot of the people who dial in and watch these events don't realise the amount of work that we put in to do it, but hopefully everybody appreciates that when they see the presenters, especially today when we've got 4. That's me, and Brian always does a quick recap of the previous episodes, so I'll do the same. 3 weeks ago, I can't believe how quickly time's passed. We're now at the end of November. We had Jeff Goldberg on from Qlik talking about QlikSense APIs, and he also showed off his ironing board as he usually does, and did a really good presentation. The recording's available at the bottom, and we also had Konstantin Wemschult on from Germany talking about process mining. Did some really cool things and showed us some really clever work that you can do with QlikSense beyond the native product, looking at their Qlik process mining application. As I said, both guys are on the recording link that's on the screen there, and we've also got a website, and I'm sure George will be able to share the link in the chat as well as we go forward.
And Andrew, just a quick shout out to Konstantin as well, who did a process mining extrapolation of our luminary unboxing last week as well, which I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, unusual application, but it just shows you the flexibility of the QlikSense product and all the extensions that people have built. That was quite an unusual use case, but it was a really cool way to use the feature. Yeah, so worthwhile watching. If you missed the event, definitely go back, please, and have a look at the recording, even over a Christmas glass of wine. So again, thanks to all of the Qlik team who help us out. We always give a shout out to Caroline, Gillian and Shelley for helping out with all the logistics with the arrangements of the Zoom meeting. They're not on today because, of course, it's a US holiday, so I'm sure they're resting and doing other things today, but obviously please reach out to any of these named people if you want to know more about the Luminary program, or if you want to potentially run meetups in your own region as well. They'll give you some advice on how to manage events. So without further ado, I'm going to jump straight into our first 2 keynote presenters. As I said, this is a double act, as Brian said. So both from Bitmetric in the Netherlands, Barry Harmsen, well-known presenter in the Qlik Masters Summit series of events, which I believe you can talk about, but I now understand they are virtual. And also you obviously do a lot of great work in the community, and you're a BI leader in the field. I don't know Bernard. I've never met Bernard before, but Bernard's going to introduce himself. He's also a colleague of Barry, and as well as showing us some of the cool things you can do with your Sense theme application. I believe you're going to be introducing a new product as well, and showing us some cool things with Pinit.
Correct,
so,
yes.
Yeah, so that's the first 2 presenters. So I'm happy to pass over to you, Barry, if you want to introduce yourself and the topic of the day.
Sure, let me try to share my screen again. There we are.
This is actually Barry's second time on the show. Barry has been, he's probably one of the few people who have been presenting in person when we actually did physical meetups. So it's
Yes.
quite nice to have him back for a second time.
And thanks for having me back. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All good. Yes. Yep.
All right. So yes, George and everyone, thanks for having me back. I was in Glasgow last year, March, and this year I'll be in my attic. Also, let me. Sorry, it's not really online demo or presentation if there's not some technical issues. Can you see my screen? Introduction, who we are, what we'll talk about. Got it.
Yep,
okay.
got it. Yeah.
So today I'll be presenting along with my colleague Bernard. So Barry and Bernard from Bitmetric. It's not all alliterating names that work here, but it helps. So also if you're still looking for a colleague who rhymes, so we're looking for a Patrick from Bitmetric. If your name's Patrick, then you almost got the job already. So a little bit about me. I'm a BI consultant at Bitmetric. I started using Qlik back in 2007 and haven't really looked back. Still looking ahead and a little bit sideways though, mainly to Power BI in the past few years and back to some data warehousing. And I enjoy participating in the Qlik ecosystem. So that's me. I do want to do a quick pitch for the Master Summit for Qlik now that we're here. I hope many of you have already heard of the Master Summit for Qlik. We're an advanced Qlik training with a conference feel. The sweet spot for attending is 6 months to 18 months, 2 years of experience. You've done all the basic training at Qlik, seen a few implementations, and you're wondering, now what? Well, that's the time to join the Master Summit. It's for both QlikView and QlikSense developers. And we also have an API training. The fun thing is that we bring lots of experience, different viewpoints, and open interactions. Each of the trainers that you see on the right-hand side, we don't always agree on everything, so it leads to some interesting discussions. And we also give you a lot of reusable asset solutions, stuff that you can bring back to the office immediately and start using again. This was all pre-COVID. And what we're currently offering is, well, we've had to adapt just like everyone else. So we've gone online. So next locations, we're going to be New Orleans, but it's going to be your kitchen table or your garden shed. Or Madrid, we were going to do, but you can now follow along from your spare room or your attic. And we've switched to an online model where we're delivering 4-hour courses on dedicated subjects. So we'll have performance tuning coming up on December 16th, advanced scripting in January, data modeling, effective visualizations, QlikSense integration. So all very relevant and interesting topics that you can sign up for and follow online. So for more information on that, go to mastersummit.com. So that's the advertising out of the way. Today we'll talk about 2 things. I'll talk about theming with Sense Team. I discussed this last year already as well, in part. I have some updates. It'll be a bit shorter than last year because I've brought along Bernard, my colleague, who will be showing you more about creating self-service pinboards with Pinit, which I think is a very exciting new offering that we have. At Bitmetric, we like to build stuff. I'm pretty sure that most of the people who join these calls like to build stuff and like to work smarter. Why do we make these things? Well, our overall theme is to make things to realize a quicker time to value for users, developers, and administrators. One of my pet peeves is that I very often don't see this happening, or not often enough. And an example I often use for this is, imagine you're going to the garage to get your car tire fixed, and they present you with an invoice for 12 hours, 100 euros a piece, 1,200 euros for inflating your tires. If this were to happen to you, you would say, are you mental? Why does it take 12 hours to inflate my tires? And they'll say, well, why are you reacting like this? We put both of our senior mechanics on this, and they each spent 6 hours on the bicycle pump. So that's how we went there. So this is a ridiculous example, and no one would accept it. But I see in our line of work, and I think if you think about it, that this very often happens. We've all seen, I'm not saying anyone here does it, of course, no one here does that, but we've all seen those consultants who spent 4 or 5 days shoveling around text boxes, not really getting anything done because they don't have the proper tools or solutions. So that's one of the things that we want to alleviate. And one of the things, one of the ways in which we can alleviate that is with Sense Team. So Sense Team, it's a very simple and straightforward tool that we built. It's an online visual editor for creating themes in QlikSense. It's free to use, and it's available at senseteam.com. I can't see all of you or see the chat window, but just curious, how many of you have used this tool before? Everyone's muted and there's no text chat, or is there? I see at least one thumbs up. Thanks, Ian. So yeah, it's free online at senseteam.com. And why did we create it? Well, editing all the JSON, the CSS is a lot of work. Typically, it's mostly the front-end users that want to use create themes, and editing JSON and CSS is not a lot of fun for them. So we want to make creation of themes quick, easy, and accessible to everyone. And the unofficial goal was, well, it seemed like fun to build, and I can tell you that it is fun to build this stuff. And the result is that we currently, and it's only increasing, we get around 600 themes being created and downloaded every week on the site. It's and average times of people spending 5 to 10 minutes on average on the site. So it's getting a fair amount of traction in the community, I would say. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'll switch to a very quick demo because. So this is the main page. We have a gallery of themes that you can use to customize, or so you could say, well, I just want the old Qlik view colors, and you can very easily set font sizes, font colors, colors for your dimensions. All these things, and what it does behind the scene is it populates the QAXT file that's required, the JSON, any CSS that's required. And when you're done, you can just download it. Did put a little advert there. Once that's done, you can download it. You'll get a zip file that you can upload to either your QMC or using QlikView Desktop if you still, or QlikSense Desktop if you still have that. So what have we changed since the last time? Well, one of the main things that we've added is the option of creating accounts. Ooh, okay. Just need to get my password. Wait. Figured I'd have this password remembered. Now, when you log in to your accounts, you get an overview of all the themes that you've built yourself. And you can take, for example, the rainbow theme. You can edit it, but you could also have the option to save or duplicate a theme, so you can have different variants of it. Also have the option to add any CSS stuff that you want there. And when you download the theme, there's no pop-up. And then you can just apply it in your QlikSense application. So in the case of this beautiful rainbow theme, it's one of the things that's lacking compared to QlikView. There we are, rainbow color theme. And you can do the same thing with, I think we have a Christmas theme as well that's becoming relevant again. So that might be interesting to look into as well. Switch back to the presentation. So what does it look like on the back end? I've used Angular, Bootstrap, Leonardo UI, and Picasso.js to build this. Any questions as to why did you pick Angular? Well, there's so many frameworks. Figured I'd start with go with Angular. And as I was reflecting on this, I thought, well, I'm using this strategy an awful lot. I started my BI career working on business objects, then did a bit of Cognos, then some Microsoft BI before ending up with Qlik. And reflecting on that, I'm very glad that Power BI didn't exist when I discovered Qlik, or I might not even be here today. On the back end, I'm using Node.js and MongoDB. So any questions, I suggest we save them to the end after Bernard has presented his piece, but I'll gladly take questions on this. And now I'd like to hand over to Bernard, who will show us more about Pinit.
Yes, thank you. I will try to share my screen then now.
I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, all ready to go. This should share now. Just, Harry, can you tell me when you see my screen?
I see your screen.
Okay, cool. So I will be talking about Pinit. First, I will give a short introduction about myself. I'm currently BI consultant and web developer at Bitmetric. I joined Bitmetric in 2017, so it's 3 years now. And I had a background already in web development, but I wanted to know more about the BI world. So I did that the first 2 years, and then we saw some things popping up at clients where I was thinking, we can make this easier. So Barry, I want to go back to the web development part and combine this with the BI part. So that's how I basically rolled in the lead developer role for Pinit. So why Pinit? You have a lot of times that you have different dashboards and with different data models, and the business users, managers, or whoever wants just one KPI from one dashboard and another KPI from another dashboard, and a chart from here, a chart from there. But then you need to build a new data model. You're working on it for 2-3 weeks, and in the end, it usually doesn't even get used that much. So why we keep doing it? Yeah, because it's us, but why don't we make it easier to get it in one single view without combining the data models? So basically with Pinit, you can also make your own personalized home screen. You can take all the charts, all the information from the screens, from the Sense applications you want into one screen, so you don't have to deep dive into every application every day just to check if the number is correct or wrong. You can get a higher adoption of QlikSense, or also the different applications, and also like the same as with Sense Team. It seemed like fun to build, and actually it was quite a lot of fun. So this is not the last sheet. I will go into my demo now. This should go. So I will reload. This is the entrance. It's on the development server, so it's a bit slower than the production, but I just wanted to show you all new features already. So that's why it might be a little bit slower sometimes. This is the home screen where you enter. When we have pinboards, you will see in a minute that on the top here, it will be populated with the pinboards we created. Over here, you see all your applications in the middle that you have access to. The one that's reloaded is with the latest reload is the first application and so on. So if you can also instantly check if an application did run or not based on the reload time, etc. On the left, we have the menu where we can navigate between streams, shared pinboards and favorites. Shared pinboards I will get into later when I build my pinboard. But a lot of times, even when you have a nice pinit screen, you sometimes still want to go into your favorite applications to just check them out. So we can add applications as favorites, and when you hit it, you can just click on it and we will go into it. And it will open in here, so you don't have to leave the pinit screen even. You can do everything in here except building a new app. That's a thing we might add in for the future, but for now it's just analyzing. But of course, this is not the prime feature of Pinit. The prime feature is, of course, combining different applications into one pinboard. So for now, I will take some charts from two applications. First, I will take the CRM application. And on the top, we see the name of the application. Here are all the sheets of the applications. And we made a different sheet of all the master items because a lot of master items are made but never used, or you just only want to see the use the master items, then you go just into here. For now, I will take some charts from the CRM trends tab. So I will put this in, and then I can create a new pinboard. I can just save it to there, and then I can instantly start scrolling through it again. So I also want to add this one. And let's take some bar charts. Okay. So we have 4 charts in now from the CRM application, but we also want to see human resource, human capital management data in there. So we open that application, and then we just want some KPIs in here. So you can just scroll through everything, and it doesn't matter what type of chart it is, it will show up. Maps always will take a little bit longer, but that's just because it's a heavier visualization. So let's add some KPIs. Number of employees is interesting. New hires is interesting. And let's take woman-employee ratio. So also we want some more charts, and let's go to the gender salary comparison, and let's take the average salary comparison, and also the management positions. So now we added a lot of charts to Pinit. So now we can go to the pinboard itself. So when I click on it, it will open. When you add a new chart, it will automatically take on this size, and it will place itself on the first empty space we have. But it's a free form, so we can put it where the charts wherever we want. So I will just arrange this here real quick so I can start playing around with these. So let's put this into one column because this is all from CRM. And now we, of course, it's also helpful to know that this is from CRM. So on the right side, we have a whole menu. Here you see the 2 applications, and here you see some pinboard properties. I will get into this in a little bit, but we can populate this with some text. So I can put in CRM. We can choose an alignment. We can choose a color. Let's take a bright red for now. Let's make it bold, and let's even make it 50 pixels. So now we can save it, and now it shows up here. 50 pixels maybe a bit too big, so let's make it 40 again. And now we can put it in here, and you see the chart automatically moves down if something comes on top of it. And as long as you don't release, it will automatically, and you don't place it here, it will automatically adjust back. So only when you release it, it will change the look and feel of your pinboard. So now I'll also arrange this real quick. Okay. So I also, we can also include images. For now, we'll take an image from the content library because I don't have anything saved in my short keys to get an image in here, but we can choose any image from here. And then we can also put it in here and we can scale it. You can also put in custom images with a URL. We don't have the upload image function yet, but that might be there in the future. So also, let's also give this a title, Human Capital Management was this. So let's put this left, normal, and let's give the blue color, put it in here. So this is the basically creating your screen, and it's all, like I said, free form. You can resize, you can replace, and you can only edit when you're in the you can only excuse me, replace the application, the charts and text when you're in the edit mode. As soon as you hit done, you can only view. We don't have selections on the charts in here yet because, yeah, that's a future and a feature we're gonna add probably in the future, that you can enable or disable selections on charts. But for now, we just want have them disabled. So a neat thing that's also in Pinit since short is that we can also apply bookmarks to or set to our applications. So for the CRM application, I'm going to apply the bookmark sales rep with less than 20 accounts, and you instantly see it changing in here too. And for human capital management, I will set age group 20 to 30 and some other stuff in here. One of the latest things we also added is themes. So we can apply themes to the entire pinboard. So I download these two themes, Tableau and Weekend at Bernie's, this morning from Sense theme, of course. And now I can just apply it, and you see that the colors that are in a grid, that gets changed. So this color is, I don't know this application by heart, but this color is probably hard coded in there. So then it doesn't change, but if it's in the dimension group, it changes. And we also added the feature that you can share a pinboard with other users. So we just hit share, and then, for instance, I can now give Patrick and Barry access to this dashboard. And then I can, when I hit continue, they can also open this pinboard. Another feature that we added is that you can get the URL of this specific pinboard to instantly open it, or set it in your bar so you can get there. So I hit get URL, it's saved to my clipboard now, and when I hit this, it will automatically go to this pinboard. And then I will show one more feature. That's the last feature I'm going to show. So we have also implemented an admin panel where you can see your license code, the contact person of your of the company you work for, the type of license you have, and how many licensed users you can have, and how much licenses there are in use. So for instance, if I want to disable Barry's license because he has been mean to me lately, I can disable it, and now you can see that there are only 2 out of 5 active licenses. And when I put it back, you can go back in and you instantly see that there are 3 out of 5 licenses. So yeah, and then on the left, like if Barry goes to Pinit now, beneath shared pinboards, you will see the meetup pinboard. I have a demo pinboard here. I believe Barry made this to try something out, but yeah, he shared this with me, so I can see his demo pinboard now. And he can see my meetup pinboard if he goes to this link. So that was my Pinit demo. I'm going to hand it back to someone else.
Thanks, Bernard. Thank you for that, and to Barry, obviously, of course, as well, for the first presentation. I think, George, I don't know if we've still got some questions. I know Barry's been answering them in the chat panel.
Yeah, there was a lot of questions that came in around Pinit. It's a really cool idea. It reminded me of a project that I was partly involved in with Adam Nagus at Digimasters, and he called it Physics, I think, but he never finished it. And I'm glad this is looking really polished and really finished. Just on the question around support for other visualization tools like Power BI, Tableau, etc. Barry, when you answer that, does it actually support these third
Not
parties?
yet. Yeah, not yet, but one of the one comment I just first want to get in is that this will be free for everyone up to 5 users. So if you book a demo with us, we provide you the software, you get a copy, and you get 5 free users in your own environment. This is a product that can go many different ways. One of the things why we started on it relatively late is because we thought surely Qlik will do this at some point. But they still haven't. Another benefit is that you can use analyzer users to create pinboards with this. So that might be a cheap form of self-service. So to your question about Power BI, it's one of these things that we have on the roadmap. Unfortunately, we have clients moving one way or the other. We see some clients going to Power BI. We see clients coming back from Power BI. It's pretty interesting to be able to drop in tiles from Power BI and say, well, I have one integrated view while we're transitioning one way or the other. One thing that Bernard did not show, I also saw some questions around interaction. If you click on the chart, you can open the app and then you can interact with all the data that's behind there. So the idea here is that it's like on your phone. We all have a phone. We all have different home screens. We all value things differently. You just get an overview of things that are important to you. And if something looks off, then you can click through and open the app and explore further from there. Because I'm not sure if everyone here has experienced this, but we also sometimes get comments from clients like, okay, there's just these 3 or 4 things that I want to know on a daily basis, and I have to click through 3 or 4 or 5 Sense apps to get at them. Can't I just put them all in one place? And I only need to dive deeper if something's out of the ordinary. So that's the cost through.
Good stuff. In terms of next year, Barry, what are your plans? Do you actually have a roadmap that even you could share offline with us and we could circulate it of how the product is planned to develop across the 2021?
Well, the first thing we want to do is get users on this. We have it running at a few clients now, but we want to scale up a little bit and from there see where we can go. We have a few things on the roadmap. Yeah, specifically, there were some questions around sharing selections, those kind of things. That's one of the things we'll address more around sharing. We're currently working a lot on the UI and UX aspects of it to make it easier. So yeah, we can certainly publicly share our roadmap when we get there. Well, as was asked as well in the chat, we have a few website issues that we need to solve first. Our website is only in Dutch, and it's not the 18th century anymore, so not half the world speaks Dutch. So we have to sort that out and make an English version as well.
Good time for 2 more questions. I think there's a few technical ones that just come in at the end. I don't know if you can see them. From asking about authentication from QlikSense, how does that work? And also SSL requirements for the product.
Bernard, do you want to take those?
I can, yeah. So the authentication is all security is done with your QlikSense server. So if someone has access on your QlikSense server, they have access in here. If they don't have access in on your QlikSense server, they will not see it. So you can share a pinboard, for instance, which has 5 applications with section access, etc., etc. But some of your charts are not able to be seen by certain users. Then the area is still populated in here, but it will not show the charts. It will only show what they can actually see. So it will just give the Qlik message that they are not able to see this chart because they don't have access. But the will still work. So everything is managed inside of Qlik.
That's great, thanks. George, do we want to take any more, or are we happy to? Obviously, we can take questions offline and pass them to Barry, or please reach out to Barry or Bernard on LinkedIn if you want to find out more about the product or speak to them one-to-one.
Sure.
Yeah, I think maybe especially on the sort of pricing questions as well, it's maybe better a sort of direct conversation with Adrian that you pick up with Barry. Just on the use cases as well, I have quite a few clients that I work with that have a big mismatch of different BI tools. So they'll have Tableau, they'll have Qlik, they'll have Power BI, all in the same organization. I'm thinking of a Direct Line, for example, that we've worked with recently. And then you've got the C-suite, the sort of chief operations officers and the other managers would love to be able to pull together a single dashboard with lots of little bits from all of these other systems. I think this would be a fantastic tool for doing that. Anyway.
That's definitely where we would want to go, but we first want to do Sense really, really well, and then do the rest.
Cool.
Great stuff.
Do we have time for one question from me? And that is that's around the technical hurdles. How do you propose to approach the technical hurdle of selections in a Pinit board? Because obviously you're not going to get the Qlik user experience because you've got multiple different charts in there. Have you figured out the way you're going to approach that, or is it still up for debate?
So the current thinking is that we start with bookmarks. People just create a bookmark on their app of the selection that they want to see, and it's the pin board is relatively static in that way. One of the first things that's coming up then is what is the typical dimension that people want to consolidate these views across, which would be time. So we would go to maybe some sort of indicate what is the calendar field per app, and that we link across those and make selections that way. We don't have any plans for further dimension linking or something. This is we have to think a lot about what is it that we're trying to achieve. Is this a dashboard of dashboards, or just a sort of a pin, how do you say it, a quick start, or a bookmarking kind of a solution? We don't want to make it too complex, because what we're finding, and we try to explain it very well, but 9 times out of 10, even the self-service options offered by QlikSense are too complicated for many people, or at least they don't want to make the effort to learn them. So we don't want to burden them with too much hassle. It's just like, I like this chart, I want to see it more often, preferably next to this other chart that I really like, and we make that happen for them. So
Great
that's
stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks, Barry. So
just a quick one from me, if that's okay as well. Barry, obviously, you know, your company does a lot of different things with a lot of different tools, and it's great to see SenseTheme and Pinit pushing on. But I just wondered how you found the balance of consultancy versus productization and Master Summit, especially with COVID in the mix, and where you kind of see the balance of Bitmetric being going forward.
So consulting is our core business. Mm-hmm. And all these tools we are consultants like many of you, and we look at things that are happening in the market, or jobs that are out there, or tasks that have to be achieved. We don't want to be the bicycle pump guys. So we come up with these ideas to fix them, and some of them work out. Last year I showed you TurboView, which is a tool we've been using in-house for many years, but never commercially released, or very late in the game. That was a tool where you could basically generate entire QlikView dashboards within 1.5 hours. A junior consultant can build a nicer dashboard than many seniors in 3 or 4 days. So that's for me, and I think for a lot of my colleagues, that's what we enjoy doing. So we have this consulting, that's the base, these tools and products. If we come up with something nice, then we add them. And then we have the training aspect of it as well with the Master Summit. And that is, well, yeah, we don't do these Master Summits daily. It's 2-3 times a year. And as far as I'm concerned, that's more than enough. Between you, me, and everyone else here, it's also very the main draw for me, or a very interesting aspect, is we get to travel to really nice places and talk to a lot of enthusiastic people about Qlik. But that's not going to be a main business for us at Bitmetric, just on the side.
No, that's great. Thanks, Barry.
Thanks, Barry. Good question, Brian, as well. Thanks. So just conscious of time, so I'll grab the screen share back. If is that looking okay, George?
Yep, looking good.
Okay, good stuff. So that was Barry and Bernard. Obviously, thanks to them for their presentation and their products that they're building in Bitmetric. So we've done the Q&A, but please follow up on the chat if you want to ask any questions offline. So it's now time to introduce our 2 big speakers who are here from Qlik today, Qlik in the UK. Very pleased to welcome Stephen Pressland, Senior Product Manager in Qlik, and Ian Crossland, the Senior Director in Product Management. They're going to be talking about 2 different subjects. They can probably introduce them better than I can, but just to give you a quick heads up, Ian's going to be talking about dynamic views and the Qlik hybrid model for in-memory versus retaining data in the big data lakes. And Stephen, I believe, is going to be talking about conversational analytics in the area of the business rules and vocabulary. They're obviously part of the new Qlik SaaS offering as well. So that's my quick introduction to both Stephen and Ian. I'm sure you both are well known in the community and most of the people on here. So I don't know, between the 2 of you, who'd like to go first, please?
I was going to kick off, Andrew, if that's okay.
Okay, good stuff. Ian, if you want to, I'll stop sharing and please share your desktop.
Can you see that? You can, cool. Yeah, so only 1 slide from me. I just wanted to go through.
Sorry, there's no screen share.
Can you see that?
Not yet, no.
No.
Let me do it again.
That's it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep, only 1 slide from me, really. So I just want to spend a few minutes going through a capability that's been in the product for a while. And the reason I'm covering it is I think it's becoming more and more relevant as we're looking towards how people are using data, especially when we have the advent of cloud databases. So I'm speaking to a number of clients who are getting more mature with their cloud-based, data warehouse. Google BigQuery has been around for a while. We've all seen, the exponential rise of Snowflake via the IPO. And these are all great tools. And this is where the industry is going in terms of how people are, moving data and how they're using cloud and SaaS, not only from analytics, but also from a data storage perspective. I think Daryl West of HSBC, the CIO there, they're spending multiple $billion effectively turning HSBC into a SaaS first environment. And they are one of many, customers who are using Google BigQuery. We've got a whole host of customers at Qlik that are using that. Now, when we're talking to a more mature user of these, the initial sort of, fanfare of this is going to solve everything, and it does, is starting to hit them in the pocket a little bit. And this is not about beating up Google or Snowflake, it's just about the observations that we're seeing. If I talk to a typical Google customer year 1, they're very happy with push down compute. They could be using a Tableau or a Power BI. They're not really seeing the value of Qlik because we are deemed to extract data into memory. If I go back to talk to them year 2, year 3, they are looking to try and reduce the cost. So Google itself, charges per terabyte of information processed in terms of the query, and obviously the same query does not cost. You don't pay twice. Snowflake and the others, charge by credits and by hour. So what they're looking towards Qlik to do is to give them the best of both worlds. And this is where we've got a couple of different data methodologies, where the advent of Qlik usage increasing actually decreases the cost to the customer. And independent surveys have shown, when they're looking at TPCH, which is a standard data set, each of those tools run about 30 cents, a query, depending on what you're trying to do. So ODAG, on-demand app generation, has been around for quite a while. Feedback has come in that it is, quite an overt process in terms of clicking between applications, and that is fine for certain scenarios. I would say the majority of the deployments have been looking in a mashup scenario for ODAG, where they actually mash up on the same screen an ODAG app, which has got the detail records and then the summary application. So I was speaking to a credit card company last week remotely in New York, and they're looking to do fraudulent transaction analysis, and they've got billions of rows that come in, and they've got a nice little mashup that they push out to their clients, their internal customers, which is effectively pushing down compute where needed and having in-memory compute to get that associative experience. So dynamic views is effectively the next generation, the simplification of the ODAG story. This is available today already in SaaS and in client managed Windows as well on Sense. And dynamic views effectively behind the scenes is using the same service, the same ODAG service, which effectively encapsulates the selections you make, depending on the language behind the scenes, will translate that potentially into a SQL statement, push that down with populating the associations or the selections into a where clause, execute against source, and render back the results. So it is still separate applications. Excuse me. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So I'm going to show you it in SaaS. So I've got just a dashboard here in my SaaS tenant. So if I just look at my collections, I've created a little dynamic view collection so I can group together all of those applications that I'm interested in. So no surprise, I can't seem to get through a year without doing a New York taxi demo, and this year will be absolutely no different. So it is a New York taxi demo. However, I have branched out to another demo as well. So a couple of charts here, both of these pointing at applications which have got a hybrid approach. So if I just look at this particular chart, this is looking at payment types and rate codes, aggregated view. The source is in both Google BigQuery and in Snowflake. So those individual pickup times and pickup rides down to the second, the volume of the data, the billions of rows, 2 billion in this case, majority in Google and a slice in Snowflake, are stored at source. So if I want to view this in the app, it'll launch me into the app itself. Nothing new here. This is just in-memory analytics, but really I want to get to the details. So I want to be able to push down that compute. I want to reuse that investment that I've got in Google and that I've got in Snowflake. So on the right hand side, these are two dynamic views. I have governed them to not render just based on a volume count. I do not want my users executing queries which cost like 30 cents a pop or even more, which is going to process gigabytes of data or is going to take hours to run. I want them to get snap information back and I want to reduce the cost. So I've just governed that view. This is in memory. Everything I do here, I'm not paying for effectively in terms of compute. So if I'm interested in unknown and disputed fares, for example, I effectively then want to look at a particular rate code and I'll pick this. You can see that the warning has gone away. I've got a little triangle here, which is telling me I've now reached that governed limit. Here's my constraint. And I've said, look, 50,000, don't pull back any more than 50,000 detail records. And I can go away and effectively execute that particular query. So that's running against Google, and I can do exactly the same thing and run that against Snowflake. So let's come back from Google, it'll come back from Snowflake. So here's the slice coming from Google, and then here's the slice coming from Snowflake. Behind the scenes, we can see that it's executed these queries. And the interesting point really is this number here, bytes billed. If I was using, a live push from another tool, I would be charged for that query, not the same query, but I would be charged for slicing in between. So different selections. So for example, if I decide to change from rate code 5 to 5 and 1, I can now get a little flag. Okay, it's not the latest data. So, go and get me that data, and then go and get me this data as well. And again, it'll execute against source, and I can see what it's doing. So if I refresh my queries that I've just been running, and if I just jump into the SQL here and just scroll that up, you can see what it's done is effectively this piece here is completely dynamic, okay, generated from the script, and that's how it's been pushed down. So in terms of setting up dynamic views, extremely straightforward. This is coming from one app, this is coming from another app. I've got an extra dynamic view tab, and these are master charts within the app. So this chart over here, which was in fact, this is the Google one here, this combo chart, that exists as an app in another application, which I'm pulling through. And then if I want to look at the Snowflake one, same deal. This was the line chart looking at pickup times, and you can have them in. So this is like a consolidated environment. So when I look to the world of larger data sets, and I now look at this particular chart in the application, this is looking at some demo data. If you have a Snowflake account, you can play with this. Today, TPCH data, they store billions of rows within their sample data set. So I've got 6 billion order lines. So it's effectively looking at this table here, the line item table at the lowest level, 168 gig. So Snowflake's charged slightly differently. I'm using a large instance. I'll be getting charged, or Qlik will, I should say, $3 an hour as I'm using it. Now, if I'm idle, it'll switch it off, so I'm not being charged. However, I'm still looking to save costs. So I've still got the choice to have that hybrid approach. So here's my in-memory chart. I'm interested in, a couple of these containers. This is manufacturing data and part data. Again, it's telling me that I've reached my governed limit, because I said, only allow people to select no more than 10 of these container types, but I'll just filter it down a little more. I'll pick a particular type. I'll pick a couple of these different types here, and then I'll execute against that. So this time, because it's coming from the same app, it's effectively running one query. So it's more efficient. It's just running a single query. If I jump into the worksheet here, look at my history, refresh this, we can see this is executing now here. I'll keep refreshing that. And I can see what it's done here. So it's effectively generated this piece here. That's the dynamic piece that it's pushed down, and then effectively, in theory, I don't know if it's rendering because Snowflake's been playing up. There we go, it's rendered here. So these items I'm looking at here, I can now spot an individual order, which is 6 billion distinct orders. I'm only looking at 1,500 here because I've sliced, and I can see, look, could be a warning, it's a 10% discount. So it's in the same experience, and it provides that hybrid approach. Now, this has been scary, not to the folks on this call, but to a whole bunch of users for a variety of reasons. Firstly, the ODAG piece, which was jumping about between apps, that's taken care of here. The other piece is the effort required to build one of these apps. So if I jump into my collection, everything I was looking at there is my detail app for the big data. There is my detail app against Google, and there's my detail app against Snowflake. If I look at what we had to code pre-June this year, let's just take a quick look at that script. And by the way, if you've written these scripts, they still work, and we're going to support those. And they could be useful to go to that real technical level of what you need to do if you want to do some real complex slicing. This is what I would have had to write. I needed to create subroutine to effectively create the SQL that I want to push down. I'd have to then write this subroutine, which effectively generates the set of selections that I want in an inline load. I would then specify the columns I wanted and then put set statements. I would then effectively do a for next loop to bolt those together. And only then would I effectively put it into a variable there. Okay, so we're looking at 140 lines of script. Post June, let's have a look at that. This is what we've slimmed it down to. We've built a whole host of stuff back into the engine. So if I look at, for example, the Google example, and I look at the script that I need, you can see massively simplified. The script I need is in fact that. So we've simplified it from 150 plus lines to 1 line. And the other problem that people had was, how do I test the applications that I'm building at a detailed level? How can I, do reload? So what we've done is introduced in the engine a flag. So effectively, I can now say, what does this look like if I run a 6? I want to do a quick test because I'm building the app. I can load this, but I'm not in a dynamic view and I obviously I've made a mess there. There we go. Let's have a look. Single quotes anyway. Play today. So effectively, no, it's not. I'm not going to get that going. Anyway, the point being is that I can effectively have a single line. The piece at the top here allows me to build the app and test it. So whatever I'm doing in terms of developing that application, I can just put it into this little routine here. This is optional, I don't need it. But what it's doing is, behind the scenes in the engine, it's looking for this flag built into the engine. And this is only populated when it detects it's coming through an ODAG interaction. If it doesn't detect that, then effectively it'll allow you to run this piece here. So in summary, we're seeing a lot of customers who are looking at trying to reduce the charges that they have for their database compute that they're paying for in the cloud. The feedback we've had around ODAG, it was too clunky. We keep having to jump between apps. So that's now consolidated in dynamic view. The other piece of feedback is it was way too complex. And we've built, as you can see, the 4 next loops, the subroutines back into the engine and replaced it effectively. So you can just write a simple where statement, ODAG, I can have that as ODAG O, which means associated, ODAG S, which means selected. If it's numerics, I can just select the numerics and, O and N. All these are documented, but it's massively simplified. Just to reiterate, your old ODAG scripts will still work, Windows and SAS, but this is a much easier way to be able to do it. So that's what I had, Andrew. Do we have any
That's
questions?
impressive. Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to combine the Q&A at the end?
Okay, yes, let's do that.
Pass over to Stephen, and then we can survey the questions together, I think.
Cool,
Stephen.
thank you. Yes, so I'll share my screen and we'll get going.
So Scottish background.
Glencoe, apparently, according to Google. So we will.
It creeps, Stephen.
Well, yeah, I was going to put a picture of Nicola Sturgeon up there as well, but I couldn't find that one. Cool. All right. So let's make a start. I've even got a mask because I'm in tier 3, so I'm one of the bad zones. So I'm stuck inside my office. So it's great to be here virtually. So hopefully you can see my my screen. And yeah, so I'm Stephen Pressland. I'm Senior Product Manager for Augmented Analytics. I work for Ian in the analytics team looking after areas of QlikSense. So let's jump in and see what we're going to talk about today. So Black Friday, I've run out of money, so I can't do any more shopping. So I'll give you all a special offer, which is conversational analytics, and we're going to talk about some business logic. And then once I've finished, you can all go find some bargains. So let's jump into this. Okay, why conversational analytics? We're seeing a lot of interest here around how do we ask questions of data. It's a very natural approach for people, but it's still quite intimidating to ask questions and to think of this in a new way of interacting with data. People think about asking questions and they can be quite inquisitive, but not necessarily doing that being driven by data and analytics. So, we grow up asking questions, but not necessarily asking questions about data. So this really allows people to evolve into a much more natural way of being able to interact with data, if they're traditionally not using analytics. And there's a lot of people who ask questions, but they don't sit at a desk. And I think this is really important with what we're going to talk about is the dashboard is not for everybody. There is a fantastic role that dashboard plays, and what we'll talk about is conversation shouldn't replace the dashboard, but for those people where the dashboard isn't a suitable environment to get answers, conversational analytics can play a really important part in that. So we're going to look at two examples here of two sort of use cases to demonstrate this. So meet Nick. So Nick's a construction manager. He oversees teams of constructors, tradespeople, delivering against complex plans. They're probably lucky if they're indoors, they're outside on building sites in a really rugged environment. They don't have the luxury of a QlikSense dashboard to sit behind and to work with. So Nick uses the conversational analytics to understand who's on site, what activities will be finishing when. You can coordinate to just-in-time material inventory on site, just asking questions. And typically he's doing this on a mobile device using something like Microsoft Teams, or he's on his mobile phone using QlikSense in the browser. And then he'll also look at how you use other capabilities like alerts to understand critical information, about perhaps stuff that's delayed or things that are running low in terms of materials. And so when you're looking at how conversational analytics plays in, it's not just about conversational analytics, and that's a really important part of this with Qlik. So in this case, it's also about how the use case is paired with the broader platform. And there's another example. We've got Alice. And Alice is a doctor. She's operating in a hospital. She's on her feet. She's looking after patients. But she can use conversational analytics to understand where the patients are, how to direct care to them. She's getting answers to questions when she's discussing with hospital management. She's able to get this information, at her fingertips on a mobile device, maybe a tablet that she's carrying around with her, which has also got patient details on it. But she does need to be able to look further. She needs to explore the data and understand things in more depth. And that's where she really likes to drill down into QlikSense applications to look at those in more detail. And this is really important around, insights on Qlik is about, the platform. It's not about a point solution that we're just providing, a side piece of entertainment. It's really about how do you deliver against a bunch of use cases with a range of capabilities across the platform, so that you're using the right tool at the right time. So in terms of these, Nick and Alice, they're not traditional Qlik users. They're changing the way that we engage with analytics with new use cases. When you're talking to customer, obviously many of you will be consultants or will work with internal customers in organizations that you work with. Be really careful about conversation analytics. Shouldn't really be positioned as a replacement for the dashboard for the existing users who the dashboard experience is actually the right solution. So it's about new use cases and new opportunities within the organization, not just about saying, existing users, no, you can't use, selections, you can't use your dashboards anymore. You've got to stop using that. You've got to start asking questions. And also, chat's not designed to just be switched on for any existing app. You really got to start with thinking about the use cases, where you want to apply this, and how it should fit in. And so, be wary of the complex application that probably started life on Qlik View. It's full of data islands, variables, period pickers. We've all been there. We've all built them. We're probably still maintaining them and still building those applications. And they are really great applications at doing what they do. They're probably not the great place to start off when building conversational analytics. And that really comes to the next point, which is around keeping it simple. Focus the application on the conversational use case, or use business logic to focus an existing application. We'll talk about that in a little while. But this is really important, that if we think about natural language processing in general, whether it's on your mobile device with something like Siri or Alexa or Google, whatever it is, they are very focused. They are very driven about getting points to answers to questions. But they're also not, the computer from Star Trek yet. And that's the same for Qlik. At some point in the future, we'll be able to infer any question with a big neural brain that's sitting in the sky, and we'll be able to work anything out, and all of us will be done out of a job, and no one will need to work anymore. But that's probably not going to happen for a while. So understand whether what data is required for new use cases, and where can we drive those. So how do we build for Insight Advisor? And I think what's really important is understanding Insight Advisor is a broad range of capabilities across the Qlik platform. It's insights within an application. It's Insight Advisor Chat, which allows you the chat experience that we'll talk about in a moment. But all of these capabilities are deeply ingrained. They all work together. They're all part of the same mechanism, all part of the same machine. So a really important point that this isn't just around the chat experience that we've just released. This is capabilities that are deeply ingrained across the Qlik platform. So if you think about the app development lifecycle, you start with a data model, move to master items. Now we have another concept called business logic. And really important with all of these, probably apart from the data model, is that they are optional. They're not something you have to do in order for an app to work. But the more you do of it, the better the app can be, the more users you can provide a really great experience to. It's like master items. You can build a fully fledged published dashboard without them, but self-service needs them, and for a great user experience and also for an efficient developer experience, master items can be a great piece. Again, business logic. It's about putting in a level of effort so that the application you're rolling out to thousands of users can really be focused and honed in on the capabilities that you have. Now, in terms of Insight Advisor, the search-based analysis, which is the in-app experience, is an opt-out process. So you can choose to switch that off if it's not relevant for the application, but typically that will be available for people to use within an application. And our Insight Advisor chat experience, which is to bring that into the hub, this is an opt-in experience. So you choose which apps you want to switch it on for, you toggle the switch, you reload the app. So how does Qlik handle natural language questions? I think this is really important to understand so that we can sort of tie the loop on this. First of all, we have a natural language model that's pre-trained, and this looks at your question and understands intent. What were you trying to get from that question? But that on its own isn't isn't useful in and of itself. We have to understand a lot more. So we have to look at which fields match. So we're looking at field matching. We'll use business logic, we'll use vocabulary, we'll use master items, we'll use fields. We'll look across a whole range of different pieces of metadata across applications to match the right fields for that question. We then do filter matching. So we're looking for data values. Underpinning this is the smart search capability in QlikSense. So this is really important, that the smart search, if you've ignored it in the past, smart search is really important to make conversational analytics work. And then finally, the analysis types. And this is a really important concept within our natural language capability. Natural language is not being designed to generate charts. We are generating analyses. And we generate analyses from a wide range. So for example, we have simple ones like fact, rank, trend. We have more advanced ones like correlation, process control charts, and we've got some more coming soon. And in the future, we want to provide the option for people to build their own, customers to build ones that are relevant for your business, or partners to be able to build packs of analyses, which means that you can get up and running with very specific, for perhaps a particular methodology. So This process generates analysis types and in the future other content from the app, and we will then present the results through natural language and through charts as a result of that analysis. So in terms of a quick thing, and this is the last slide before we jump into a demo, is the checklist for app development. So when you're building apps for conversational analytics, enable smart search in the script. If you've either been switching this off in the past or are not aware of it, make sure that the create search index on reload is switched on so that search is up and running. Use the search include and exclude to remove unnecessary fields from search. So you can immediately cut down the indexing time by using that script statement. Define master items. Avoid using set analysis in measures. The way that the conversational analytics work, the way Insight Advisor works, is we generate set analysis to define the conditions, so that we're building those in to the expression. So avoid using those so that it doesn't cause conflicts when Insights is building those, and we'll build that for you based upon the conditions of the question. Define a logical model, so business logic. Define the logical model, we'll see that in a moment. Vocabulary, allow you to define synonyms so that words are better phrased, better to pick up natural language. As you said, enable the insights for the chat in the hub, and then you just have to reload the app, and then it will be available in chat once those toggles get picked up after a reload. So let's jump in and see here. Right, so hopefully, can you see my QlikSense SaaS? All right. Okay, so I'm here in my QlikSense hub, and I'm going to refresh this because this was bound to have timed out. Yeah. Okay, so I've got a few applications here in my conversational analytics space. Now I don't need to be in this space. I could be anywhere. It just happens to be that these are 3 applications that I've got in this space here. Now I'm actually going to use the Ask Insight Advisor, which is our hub chat experience. And here we're able to ask questions across a wide range of applications that have been enabled. And so in this particular example, if I wanted to, I could go and see the apps that are enabled. Here we've got 3 apps that are enabled. I'm not going to select those. I'm going to actually just start afresh. And I'm just going to ask a question. And I'm going to give it a go with the microphone. We'll see how well this works. How many patients? So now it's asking the question using natural language, and it's automatically picked an application that it deems is the right one to answer that question, which is, we can see here, hospital admissions. If there was ambiguity there, it would have given me a choice to choose which of the applications, but we've identified from the metadata that this was the right application. And it's given me that there is a total of 66 patients in my application. Now you can see we're currently analysing this particular application, so it's going to try and stay in context of this unless we choose to ask a very, very different question. So let's try another one. Patients by status. And it's obviously got the wrong patients, but hopefully if this works as it did earlier, it's been smart enough to pick up the fact that it was patient name, and it's kept that context of the data. So now we can see that we've got a chart that's being returned, in this case a rank chart of the data. We've got this coming back, looking at how they are based upon their status. We've also got some natural language generation. So we've got accounts of patient names, we've got the status by patient name, and we can understand which one was the top status, which was 34% of the overall data. So we're beginning to introduce some of the natural language generation that are coming into Qlik here. So let's just off. So how many patients are waiting more than 60 minutes? And so now here we can see, very clear answer, 51 patients with a wait time is greater than 60 minutes. How many patients are critical and not in intensive care? So now we're getting right down to the number of it. We've got 3 patients, they're in a critical state, they're not in ICU. So let's understand where we could perhaps put them. Which ward has the most availability? And that's not going to pick it up because it spelled it incorrectly. So let's give it a helping hand. And so now we've got a breakdown. We can see here we've got some interesting breakdown of the wards. Now, I don't want to keep asking questions. I want to explore this further. I'm going to use this information to jump directly into an application. I'm now breaking into the Qlik experience where I can now ask the same question and I can explore this in more detail. And to really get down to the number of data that I can take action on, I'm going to and so we're going to get a list of individual patients that we should start analyzing and looking at. And so now here we've gone from an experience where we've started in the chat, we've been directed to the right application, we've been able to ask questions to take action, we've been able to explore more detail and jump into the traditional Qlik experience where I can add to sheet, I can explore, I can look at my dashboards. And I've been able to do this entirely within the Qlik ecosystem, going end to end and moving around within different experiences to suit my need. So I'm going to stop there. That's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the chat. But just to point out, behind the scenes, in order for this to work, we had the logical model. And this allowed us to define metadata about the application, including some of the patients, about the behaviors about how we should treat different relationships. And also the vocabulary, where we brought in different synonyms and information to help drive the way questions should be asked. And all of this is about providing guardrails to deliver better answers rather than just being in a situation where we are having to prescribe, a Q&A system. We just want to put up enough of a guardrail so that you can drive to the right answers. And particularly when data models are not necessarily immediately best for natural language questions. So with this, all of this comes together. I will point out there are some great resources that have just been posted online. Some of the Micah Torallo videos on Qlik YouTube channel, on Qlik community. He's just released a blog post which talks about all of this, goes into great detail about how all of these capabilities work. And also we've published some white papers that talk about how to use business logic, how to use vocabulary, how to use natural language and the chat experience. And so all of that comes together. So I'll stop there and we can jump into those that Q&A. So hopefully that was helpful.
Thanks, Stephen. That was good. That was really interesting. Can I ask a quick question from me before we go into the other chats? You were sharing the vocabulary conditioning there on the screen. Is that per app or can you do it across multiple applications?
So today it's per app, but we are in the process of elevating all of the business logic and the metadata so that it can live outside an app or can be easily shared between applications. So that's something that we're working on at the moment.
Okay, 2021 possibly?
Yeah, we should definitely see some stuff in 2021 on that.
Thanks. Don't know, George, you've been monitoring the chat possibly better than I have. You've got a question as well?
Quite a few were coming in for both sessions actually. So Ian and Stephen, fantastic. Natural language isn't something that I've used in Qlik yet, but after that demo, I definitely am. It really has come a long way, and I can see the value now. Just especially using that on the run, using a mobile device, for example. Absolutely fantastic. Well, one question I had was, is a response from, I know from a couple of sessions I've been at that I think we're going to hear a lot more about active intelligence from Qlik over the course of the next year. So I'm just wondering, is what you're doing with natural language within Qlik sort of going to complement that as such? Are you going to be able to drive other actions from potentially a response that you get from a natural language question?
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely the direction of travel, is that, you know, whether it's perhaps creating an alert, whether it's then calling, you know, an action for some follow-up process to take place. Definitely the integration of natural language to move from where we are today, which is answering analytical questions, to be able to operate and manage other elements of the platform, is absolutely part of where we're going with this. That's, you know, where we're headed in the future.
Think about our vision as well, George. It's Stephen's been asking you know, questions of apps there, which is the predefined construct to get the answers. The vision really is to be able to ask that question across a data set. So think about the DI tools landing data somewhere else in the hub, which is then catalogued, and I could just ask a question across, you know, potentially billions of rows, which is not actually formatted in an app yet, which then, you know, renders itself in a session app or something like that. That's the ultimate vision. And in terms of automation and RPA, obviously Qlik acquired Blender last month, and Blender really is that sort of active intelligence action, the next step. So Stephen asked a question there on some potential NHS data. You know, could there then be an action from that to launch into the NHS, you know, booking system around, you know, bed availability, and take an action from there? And that's where Blender, you'll see actually doing what Blender does externally, but also being the fabric of automating workflow for a whole bunch of stuff.
Awesome.
I think that opens up some exciting possibilities, Ian, when you talk about getting from these massive data sets. I mean, you've famously gone through those, like, you know, tens of billions of rows, and to get it down to a question that gives you that granularity, and then be able to trigger an action from it or some kind of posting point, I think is a really important next step for BI, actually. It's great being able to manage huge amounts of data, but even more to be able to do something at the end of it all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ian, can I ask as well, is there a plan to integrate this with the QDI products as well? Will eventually you be able to ask questions of the data while it's sitting in the integration platform?
So yeah, that's actually the meeting I was on before this. Is NLP on the catalog was the title of the meeting. Hint.
I didn't know.
So the actual solution for that is, you know, there's a whole host of options we've got around that. But yeah, the ultimate aim, and I was speaking to one of our larger customers with 60,000 users, and he said that exact question. Having an app is giving me the answer already. What I want to be able to do is ask a question across a data set, which has got to be cataloged, and we have to register the metadata, and that's what catalog's for. But being able to actually apply those you know, algorithms that we have for NLP on an app, apply that across the data set, that's absolutely where we are trying to head to.
Good stuff. George, I don't know, do you want to take one more question? Or...
I'm conscious of time, and I know we've got our big reveal, so before anybody else runs off.
Yeah, I'd like to thank, obviously, on behalf of George and Brian as well, if they want to say a few words as well. But thanks, Ian and Stephen, for your contribution today. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to echo that. Stephen, Ian, fantastic. Barry and Bernard, if you're still here, Barry is. Again, thank you. So many possibilities. And yeah, my mind has been opened again.
Yeah, the virtual pizza and beer isn't quite as good as the last one that I did in Scotland, but yeah, it's great to be here. So thanks for having.
Yeah, thanks very much.
I was going to mention that, Steve, that you were obviously around when we were Qlik Dev Group, and you came up to Glasgow for us as well. So you haven't been forgotten. Technically, you're the second repeat presenter with Barry on this show as well. He's been to physical meetup. But thanks, guys. All the presentations were great. Thank you.
Andrew, thank you for forcing my wife to take a new photo this morning. She said I look like an idiot when she saw the website. So that photo you got there was literally taken 4 hours ago. So on that previous, so thanks for that.
So thanks, everyone. That's been really good. Obviously, we'll have the recording online. So as promised, we'd like to reveal our Christmas special, which is coming up in 3 weeks' time. And here is our Christmas special. So 3 weeks' time today, on Friday, the 18th of December, at the same time in the afternoon, same time in the US morning, we're delighted to welcome Mike Capone live to the Scottish Meetup event. He'll be talking for at least 20 minutes on the Qlik journey through 2020 and what his plans are for next year as well. So obviously that'll be of interest, not just to Qlik employees, but luminaries and customers and partners. So we're proud to have Mike on board. He's a big fan of the meetup program. So we look forward to welcoming Mike. We've got 6 surprise guests, slightly different format. We're not going to have 2 or 3 presenters. We're going to have 6 people back from this year who've been on previously, and they've all agreed to come back, and they've also kindly agreed to donate a prize to our prize raffle draw. So at the end of the event, or during the event, we haven't decided yet, we'll be having a number of prize awards where all the attendees on the call will be able to win a prize. We can't give any clues yet to what they are. We do know what some of them are, and some of them are really pretty awesome. In fact, one of them's worth several $100s, but
some very generous prizes.
Exceptional event, and we're obviously obviously the kindness of these people to donate these gifts as well. But it should be a really interesting event, and it should be fun. So plan to do something different for the end of year event. So hopefully the registration link at the bottom there, kindly created by Brian as well. It's a Christmas special registration link. So we'll obviously be doing lots of social media coverage, including Qlik marketing. We'll be doing this in the next 3 weeks, but hopefully we'll have a big audience, and obviously all the presenters that came today are welcome to come back and watch as well. And we'll have some interesting Q&A with the panel of presenters on that date. I don't know, Brian, George, do you want to say anything about that?
No, just that I can't wait. So it's going to be a sort of lightning presentation format after Mike's on first, and then the other presenters will have 10 minutes each to do their presentation. Some of it will be a roundup of a year. Some of them are people that we've had on before, so they're sort of giving us an update on where things are now. And each one will raffle a prize off at the end of their session.
Yeah,
And some of them are big.
Yeah, just to follow on to George and Andrew, obviously that we're so excited by the sessions that we do, but this one almost makes me want to wear a Christmas hat and get a mince pie out, because it should be really fantastic. And I would just echo what the other guys have said. The 6 presenters that come back, as well as Mike Capone, you don't want to miss that. It's going to be a great episode, and probably an extended one as well, guys. I think we've agreed, isn't it, to fit all these goodies in. I think we're probably going to run a little bit longer for one episode. So
yeah, definitely. Yep. Okay, so thanks for that. Thanks, Brian and George, obviously. Thanks for Carolyn's help in getting it set up at the start, but thanks again for everybody for dialing in and watching, and obviously a second thanks to all of our presenters. It's been an awesome event, and hopefully we'll get lots of attention. People will be interested in the recordings that we'll publish as well. So just like to wish everyone a safe and healthy weekend, and we'll see you soon on the Qlik Virtual Meetups.
Yep, have a great Thanksgiving weekend, guys. Thank you very much. Great to have you all here. See you at the Christmas special. Don't miss it.
Menacing.